Hi there, in this video we are going to look at some of the effects. We're not going to look at each individual effect in Premiere Pro. I'll show you a couple of the ones that I use the most, but really this video is about mastering all of the effects controls, effects panels, and even showing you some stuff on the timeline so that you can work efficiently and fast, and I'll show you some of the secret sauce for using the effects control panel. Let's jump in. All right, so let's bring in a video. I've got one in your exercise files under effects. There's just one lonely guy in there, our duotone one. Okay, bring that in and let's make a sequence from it and hit our backspace key so we can see the whole thing. When I say backspace, I mean backslash. I might have said that a bit through this course. Backslash, the slash that's leaning backwards. So, all right, effects. Now, we're not going to go through every single one. Like I said, the main ones that I use are, just so you know, blur. Okay, we've used Gaussian blur a few times already. Use that all the time for blurring kind of backgrounds and stuff. Other ones that I use that I haven't shown you, flip. Okay, these are handy. Horizontal flip. It's great for like when the lower thirds are in the wrong spot, or yeah, so you just flip the video. And the other one is stabilize. Okay, warp stabilizer. Okay, remember, and it kind of stops the rocking motion. So those are the main ones. We're not going to go through every single one because we don't have the time. And there's so many kind of different use cases here. We could spend the whole class going through effects. So what I want to show you is how to get mastery of the effects, okay, that you do use, or maybe other tutorials you follow. In this case, we're going to use the effect tint. So let's type in tint and let's add that to our duotone video. And in this, let's do that kind of like Spotify effect you saw at the beginning. So I want the blacks to be a dark color that, I'm not doing it perfectly, but that's kind of what Spotify does. The whites are going to map to that kind of, I want to say snifter, but I'm pretty sure those are only in New Zealand. They're a candy chocolatey thing. Google snifter, New Zealand. They look like that. Okay, so we've got this thing, easy. Okay, so let's say that we've liked this and we've actually done some lumetri as well. We've cranked up the contrast to try and get that going, and highlights and shadows. You play around with it, right? So you've got something that you like. Let's look at animating the effect over time. Okay, and I want to, I guess, pull out the use cases of using the effects controls, which I kind of hate on a little bit, or using the timeline down here. So there's nothing wrong with using it up here for effects. Effects are pretty easy to use up here. So let's say at the beginning here, I want to set a keyframe for the tint amount. Okay, tint amount does this in this case, right? How much is applied. So I want it to come in gradually. So I'm going to start it at 0, hit this little keyframe, okay, to toggle the animation. I got my first keyframe, and then after some time, how long? That long. I'm going to turn it up to 100, and I get another keyframe. Okay, so it's a perfectly good way of using up here. Maybe at the end, it goes away. I'm going to set a keyframe so it stays at 100, and at the end, I want it down to 0. Okay, so hopefully it fades out at the end there. Nice. Now, the keyframes up here are fine. I find, maybe this is just personal preference, but I like doing it down here. And it's good to know that first I want to zoom in. Remember, Shift plus. Nope, Command plus. Nope, it's got to be clicked in here for that to work. Okay, so go Shift plus down here, make sure that your timeline is selected. And remember, we've got the opacity rubber band, and we saw the time remapping in the last video. Be like, there was no effects, but like, hello, look, they've all started appearing. So it just has those to start with, because those are the default ones. But if you add effects, like lumetri color, it's good to know that's an effect, you can turn it on down here. So I can do tint, the amount of tint is the one I want, okay? And I can see my little keyframes. I can start adding them in here rather than up here, like we did before. You remember the shortcut. How do I add a keyframe? That's right, Command on a Mac, Control key on a PC, and I can decide like that. It's going to kind of go up, come down again, for whatever reason, but I do like it down here. If you do decide to do it down here, you probably won't see these, because I've already done a recording of this. It didn't go well, so I'm re-recording. So what you won't see is those. So when you're at the smaller version, I bet you on yours, you can't see these little guys. And these guys are handy for moving from keyframe to keyframe. You can't hold Shift and drag the CTI. It doesn't lock onto them for some reason. Okay, but you can use these to jump from keyframe to keyframe. And you can see them once you make them really big. Okay, but let's say you do want to keep it small. Okay, you can actually customize these, remember? So we can right click in this gray area, say customize, and start dragging them down. Yours are probably going to be down here. Cool. So to move them up here, you can't just drag them up. We learned this before. You got to say, I want you to be in that kind of like first level so I can see them even when it's really small. Click OK. Okay, and now I can use this to kind of move along the keyframes. Up here, the shift works for some reason. If you drag the CTI up here, hold shift, it'll drag through to the keyframes. And again, you can bump around, okay, using these little arrows. So it doesn't matter which you prefer to use, the effects controls or the, use the timeline down here and change this rubber band to match what you're doing. Up to you. Other useful things when you are using the effects controls, remember if you hold down the Alt key on a Mac, no, Alt key on a PC, and you click any of these chevrons, it'll open them all up and just close it down. You're like, whew. These little dots here, these means there's keyframes in there somewhere. So under tint, there they are. Diamonds are good. Circles just means somewhere hiding in here. And that brings me to another one. Like let's say you have got lots open. Okay, you've got tints and Lumetri color, and it's all going like this. There's a filter option down here. You can click filter properties of the effects controls and say, actually show me everything that is only got keyframes applied. Just nice and tidy. Okay, just to see the things that you're actively working on because you've got keyframes in them. You have to turn it off. I show you this for two reasons: that you can turn it on, and you just got to remember to turn it off because you may be like, what's going on here? What? I can't see everything. It's because the filter is kind of like permanently on. This is another interesting one. Only show me the edited properties. So if you are changing things, say Lumetri, okay, because there's no keyframes in Lumetri, okay, but you have edited it. It's something you've actively changed. You haven't changed anything in motion, okay, so it is, that can be a handy one. I find I only use the keyframed one. Anyway, let's turn it off for the moment. Hold our Option key on a Mac, Alt key on a PC, and just close it all up, and we'll look at tint. So a couple more things for mastering the effects panel is global effects. We looked at this earlier, probably, maybe. It's hidden in the weird place that you'll never find. Remember this little plus button here? In here, there's something called global effects. Where are you? Effects, that is there. Put that into here. It's a handy one to have, especially if it's stressing your machine out and you don't really care. You just want it to play back. You might have just hints of effects. Okay, you can turn them all off at once rather than like turning Lumetri off and then going in here and turning tints off and then turning this one off. Okay, you can just go all off at once, all on at once. All right, and the last thing I want to show you is being able to, we've done a bit of work for this one. We've got some keyframes, we've done some Lumetri to get the contrast right. It's blue and white. Okay, we're going to turn this into a preset for effects. Okay, so we don't have to kind of copy and paste it every time. Very similar to other presets we've made. Okay, like our picture in picture. So what I'm going to do is I want tint. I'm going to hold my command key down on a Mac, control key on a PC, and click that as well. Anything else that I want, it might be up to you. You might be doing slow motion stuff. You want to put it all together. But I want to combine these two. Okay, I'm going to right click them, any of them, go to save preset. Okay, and instead of tint, this is going to be called my duotone. Okay, and I'm going to click OK. And now I've got my duotone ready for action later on. So I'm going to bring in another bit of footage. What am I going to bring in? Something from the last video. I'll bring in that practice exercise. Under slow-mo, slow motion 04. Let's make this out. Okay, and where is my effect? You will find them all under presets. Now, because I've typed in tint, I've got to clear the search. Under presets, where is it? Duotone. There you go. I got two because remember, I've already recorded this once. It went badly. So I've applied it and you're like, nothing's happened. Oh, it's applied the tint in the Lumetri, but also the keyframes. See? Look at that. And then it goes away again in a bit. Ooh. All right. So that is the effects panels. Again, we're not going to go through all the effects just because there's so many of them and not many of them get used. They get used in combination of like getting to a certain place. So hopefully now though that you've got some advanced skills in here, you can do those like short little tutorials on how to get a specific look, but do it with a little bit of mastery. On to the next video.